Hi, my name is Michael Waits. Thank you for joining us for this very special edition of Insurance for the New Possible. We are broadcasting live from the Chubb Insurance booth at the Singapore Fintech Festival, the largest fintech festival in the world and a knowledge platform for the global fintech community. We could not be more excited to be here. Now let's welcome Sunita Kannan, the global lead of AI product strategy at Microsoft, with whom we will discuss the new era of AI, from siloed functions to integrated systems. It is awesome to be back live at the Singapore Fintech Festival. Sunita, thank you so much for doing this with us. I could not appreciate it more. Have you been to the Singapore Fintech Festival before?
I have, yes. I was actually here last year as well.
Were you speaking here?
I did, yes.
Did you really? I've never been here before.
Yeah, it's a crazy place now.
It's a little chaotic.
Yes.
Something like 60,000 people. I feel like there are 120,000 people here.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more every year, actually.
Yeah. Like when it first started, when I first heard about it, I heard 20,000 people and I thought, wow, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But 60, yeah, not normal. Let's talk about artificial intelligence.
Fantastic. Let's do that.
Are you interested in this topic at all?
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's like the only thing I do,
It's the only thing I do.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of on-air sarcasm. Sorry about that. Can we talk about generative AI?
Yeah.
And this in the context of this kind of siloed usage versus comprehensive integration. And I think the reason why is because a lot of people think about generative AI just for this one thing.
Yeah.
And yet it's maybe inside of a bunch of different things that people are using. So maybe if you could start talking about that, that would be great.
I just want to take a step back first, right? Like when people think about generative AI, it's the cool new thing these days, right? And everyone's talking about it.
Yep.
But there's a lot that happened with traditional AI as well, right?
Tell me.
When you think about people using emails on a day-to-day basis, right? So you're actually drafting an email message, and the email actually prompts you with how to finish the sentence. That's actually AI right there.
Right.
There are also other things like, when you're on a conference call, you can do like a speech to text. It actually transcribes what you're saying.
Right.
That's also AI. And many people don't actually think about it when they're actually using it. And then now with generative AI, it's just become such a big thing that everyone's only focusing on Gen AI.
Do you think that the release of OpenAI, what was it, at the end of 2022, probably right around now last year? So for someone like you, who studies this, talks about it, works inside of it every day, when OpenAI came out, you're just like, yeah, I've been there, done that kind of thing. But do you think that sort of getting it out into the public, I don't like to use the word democratization, but really giving access to it to people that wouldn't have had access to it before? You can look at IBM's Watson, which has been around, it's been playing Go and playing chess and doing that for decades almost. But that was ancillary to most people.
Yeah.
Do you feel like OpenAI was like a watershed? And what do you think it changed?
I think a lot of people started becoming more aware that they're using AI. And that was the really interesting thing, right? If you go into something like a ChatGPT now, which is, the open free source version, a lot of people using it right now would be like, oh, cool, I'm using AI to tell me where to plan my next holiday.
Right.
And with that awareness, they're actually being able to use these applications. Whereas in the past, with that email example I gave, people were just like, oh yeah, I'm just drafting an email, it finishes for me, oh great. And it was never like AI is doing it. And now it's like, oh, AI is actually there in everything I do. And that excitement is there. And, like my niece, who is like 11 years old.
Tell me.
She's like, oh, I'm doing stuff with AI. And I'm like,
You've always been doing stuff. You've always been doing stuff with AI.
You've always been doing stuff with AI. But I love the awareness. I think this is amazing that people are so aware that they're using AI on such like really day-to-day kind of things.
What had to change? So these types of things are actually really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because you talked about travel.
Yeah.
So if you've been on any travel platform in the last 20 years, you've been getting recommendations.
Yeah.
Those recommendations were probably based on some early form of artificial intelligence. You've done this, other people have been doing that. You must be similar, right? But what had to change to then scale it to where it can be part of now almost anything? Like, was it a technical change? Was it a throughput change? Was it a compute change? Sorry, what had to change?
I think it's more of the conversational aspect, right? So if you think about the GPT models, like the thing that happens behind the ChatGPT,
right?
If you just had it out there, no one would care about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's great. It's something really cool. It calls transformers.
Right.
Now with ChatGPT, it's like I'm actually conversing with something that makes me feel like there is another human being who's actually working alongside me, working with me.
Right.
That's made the difference. Like the conversational, very human-like aspect of the outputs has really changed the way that people are actually working with these machines.
How has it evolved, do you think?
Yeah.
And how's it going to continue to evolve to become part of more and more of what people do every single day?
And I think that is where our co-pilots, for instance, from Microsoft.
So tell me what that is first for people that may not know, and then we can dig deeper into it.
So, like when I think about the conversational aspect, that's one way of communicating. That's one way of conversing. When I think about co-pilots, it's actually getting it embedded into every single application that we use. Like, for example, in the world of Microsoft, we actually use it in, we actually embed it into, Microsoft Word, into Microsoft Teams, into Microsoft PowerPoint. And now people are able to actually create an entire deck from scratch. Having never, known how to do basic things, they just have to put in a very basic text prompt. It'll create an entire deck for you, 20 slides right there in front of you. And so that's the magic of, co-pilots.
I want to give you a really personal example, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
I had to give a presentation a week ago.
Yeah.
But I always like to be the guy who's most prepared, because I honestly feel like in life, it's not the smartest or the tallest or the fastest person that wins. No. It's the person that's most prepared.
Yeah.
So about a month and a half ago, I started building in my mind what I thought that this presentation should be.
Yeah.
And then I gave that to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it came up with some very interesting topics for slides.
Yeah.
I then took each one of those slides and said, give me more information for this.
Yeah.
And then I took that, I put it into PowerPoint, because I'm terrible at design.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm good at thinking, but bad at designing.
Yeah.
I literally put it into PowerPoint and said, what should it look like?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's a killer presentation.
Yeah.
I'm 58 years old.
Yeah.
I shouldn't know how to do this, but it made it so easy. And I guess the follow-up for me on that is, what do you have to do to integrate it in a way that makes it easy enough for people to use that aren't experts in the thing in which they're using it, right? So email is fine, because I type and it says, you always say great or super or thank you here.
Yeah.
That feels obvious to me.
Yeah.
But if I say, what should my presentation look like?
Yeah.
That's not obvious at all.
Yeah.
So what has to happen on the integration side to make that possible?
So think about it like actually impersonating your style, right? So for example, if I actually put down in words, this is one of my favorite demos to do with people.
Tell me.
Is to actually say, let me actually create the persona of the ChatGPT beforehand, right? So if I, for example, I say you are, an AI assistant that helps people.
1 second. Can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
So you actually go into just like a blank chat.
Yeah.
And you say you are.
So in Azure OpenAI, for instance, we actually have the ability to create a persona for the ChatGPT
before you give it anything.
Before people start interacting with it. Correct.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So if I were owning this ChatGPT, I would go into the backend and I would actually set the persona of the ChatGPT, and I would say, you are an AI assistant that helps people. Your audience is a Gen Z demographic. Be really rude, be really impatient, use slang. So now I set it so that if somebody from a business standpoint is interacting with that ChatGPT and says hi, the ChatGPT actually comes back and says, what do you want? I don't have all day.
Really?
Yo, something like that, right? It actually has that really excellent way of interacting.
Right.
I change the persona and I say now, your audience is the baby boomer demographic. Be really patient, be really kind, and all these things. Come back and say, how are you doing, dear sir, dear madam, or whatever.
Is Gen Z really that bad?
Yeah, and no comments there.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, so it's what I said it to be, right? So it actually mimics the way I actually want it to perform.
Got it.
So likewise with the Copilot, right? If I go into PowerPoint and I say create a deck on sustainability or insurance, the main top of mind things for any insurance leader right now in this day and age, and in the world of artificial intelligence, those are my words, and it would actually fit it. It would actually create a deck to fit to those words.
Right.
And that's what is so unique about this whole thing.
I'm just trying to think about
it's a language model, right? It's based on languages that you use, words that you're actually using.
Look, I feel like I have a pretty distinctive personality, and in the way I interact, it's not rude, like maybe as you've suggested for someone Generation Z, but I'm not Generation Z.
Yeah.
I'm literally right at the end of the baby boom. But it would be neat for me now to try that. I hadn't done that before, actually, in ChatGPT, saying, here's who I am.
Yeah.
Build this for that.
Correct.
And then what if I delete that and then say, here's who I am again? It doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
I can then build a separate persona.
Exactly.
And then build for that.
Exactly.
I need to leave right now and go do some of that.
It's a lot of excitement. I mean, just imagine it actually tailors responses to suit your personality
right.
or to suit what you want to actually fit
right.
that to. That's where things have changed with AI. Like, it's actually become so conversational. I actually tell people it's like having a peer or a colleague of yours, but now that peer or colleague of yours is a machine. So it's not there to do the job for you.
Right.
It's there to get you to think outside the box. It's there to get you to think more creatively.
So I want to talk about this in a philosophical way, if you don't mind, just because you brought this up.
Yeah.
I think if you've seen enough technology development cycles, but also enough just business cycles as well, every time you see a new technology come in, humans always wonder, is this going to replace me? But also a lot of people like I am.
Yes.
Right? But historically, what we've seen is when electricity came along, people got really nervous just about electricity. Now it's everywhere. No one thinks about
Correct.
it. In a way, it's like embedded into everything that we do.
Correct.
When automated car lines came on, people were just like, oh my God, there'll never be another car worker again.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
Yeah.
And I think AI is doing some similar things. But again, just to give you a personal example, I do podcasts.
Yeah.
I do this. They need thumbnails.
Yeah.
I'm not a graphical artist.
Yeah.
But I can use. We've actually built our own AI to create prompts for Midjourney that I put in.
Yeah.
I use those, put them into Photoshop, and then use the AI there. I'm not kidding. I do all of this. It makes me so much more efficient. But it's not replacing a designer.
Correct.
It's giving me the power to be one.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And this is where I go back to, when I'm talking about Gen AI with someone in the room, and especially when I show something of our Copilot with RBI, for instance, which is our reporting and dashboarding tool.
Okay.
Someone in the data analytics team over there goes,
oh no.
Oh my God. And I'm like, it's not there to replace.
No.
Like, if you think about the GitHub Copilot, right? It's like every developer's dream to actually be able to work with someone and actually review code of someone else's, bounce ideas of one another. But now, instead of with a human being, you're doing it with a machine.
Right.
And that's where
what's the difference?
The power is really big.
Can I give another analogy if you don't mind? Because this is actually the way I think about it. Excuse me. We humans have motion.
Yeah.
And in the really old days, we would just walk from one place to another place.
Correct.
And then we decided we can use animals to do this, horses, cows, whatever it was, right, to move. And then we created much faster cars.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it never removed the driver.
Yeah.
We can talk about autonomous vehicles all we want, but that's fine.
Correct.
But my point is that if you were a horseback guy who was giving people rides in your car, you just needed to learn how to drive to become a taxi driver. Am I wrong?
That example is amazing because it takes me to my most favorite topic, which is responsible AI, right?
So
because
tell me.
You need a human in the loop to actually make sure that you're having that review, that process.
Yeah.
I would love to have all these things created and just shipped off, right? But it's not meant for that. It's actually meant for me to then take that, review that, massage that further, and then ship it off to whatever I want to do with it. So you definitely, and especially with like life or death situations or like critical systems.
Yeah.
I love AI, but I wouldn't bet my life on anything, right? So for example, I would want a person to actually review something, especially a doctor or something. They need to be in the loop to actually look through that before they actually give me prescriptions or whatever else. And that's the importance of people in this whole process. They are needed. They are needed.
So how do you do that for the regular population though, right? Because internally at Microsoft, tons of super amazing people.
Yeah.
Right. Then you go into the general population. You have to teach them, first of all, that it's not scary.
Yeah.
It's actually really good for you.
Yeah.
And if you know how to use it, it'll make your whole life better.
Correct.
Like way less hard. But you can't rely on it 100%.
Yeah.
But in the same way that, you don't run down a stairway.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you hold the railing.
Exactly.
No?
Exactly. And this is where our responsible AI practices are so important, right? When we engage with a customer, we make sure we understand what systems they're actually implementing AI for and how critical is it. Are there any life or death situations in the mix in any of those in the processes? And accordingly, we would recommend a guardrail or a governance or whatever else as part of that. But we also have built-in responsible AI features and tools actually integrated into all our technologies.
Right.
So it's not just supposed to, just go berserk and, have like harmful things, dangerous things. For instance, right, I actually created a demo for an insurance customer.
For an insurance customer?
Yeah, for an insurance customer. And one of the things I actually put in that was, tell me, the fatality rates in 2017. It would come back and say, Sunita, you're using harmful language or like self-harm related language because it's fatality rates. So I had to go in the back end and be like, this is the industry that actually deals with this.
With
so
fatality
it's
rates,
fine,
right? So it's normal.
It's normal,
right.
and let it pass through. So those guardrails are super important to have in place.
Are there other specific examples if you have of something like that in a different industry maybe, where you're like, they talk like this, so it's okay to say this, or they don't talk like this, so it's completely out of context?
The one thing which has like no right or wrong, and it's supposed to be handled very delicately for obvious reasons, is the healthcare industry, right? So with the healthcare industry, you just have to put a lot of good guardrails around it. With things like FSI and stuff, obviously the governance rules and the compliance rules, all of those need to be maintained.
Right.
But this one really stumped me because I didn't expect it, right? It would actually like stop me and say, Sunita, no, don't proceed further. And I was like, okay, thank you very much.
Again, I just want to go back to me just a little bit, right? Because I do tons of prep calls for my podcast. And one of the things I say to the guests is I want to do it in a conversational way because I want to introduce people to you in the context of what you do. But there's a reason why. And the reason why is because I think humans still maintain a visceral connection with other humans. And I think this gets back to your notion of humans in the loop. So no matter what technology does, right? And I'll go back to the car thing. No matter what it does to make your life more efficient or more effective or just better, having a human there to experience it with you is never going to go away.
I absolutely agree. Like, you know, I know that AI is doing a lot of amazing things and I work in it as a field and I absolutely love it. And the things that it opens doors for is amazing. But you do need that, you know, that human experience as well. Where it's needed, you do need to have humans in the loop. Again, I was talking more about from a review process.
I understand.
From a process perspective as well. Wherever that's needed, wherever people feel more comfortable, which is why when escalations happen, for instance, you get a human involved for that.
Right, exactly. And I just wanted to broaden it out a little bit because I do think that human connection is never going to go away.
Correct.
But everywhere, but if we believe that AI is going to be embedded into everything that we do, right? I mean, there may be AI inside this microphone as well, but I don't want to talk to myself. I'd rather talk to you or somebody else sitting there. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to make. The last thing I'll ask you before I let you go, because I could go on about this.
Of course, me
forever.
too.
What excites you the most today? The responsible part is very important. But just in the development process and the things that people are going to be using, what excites you the most today?
I love the fact, the thing that makes me really happy right now is the fact that awareness is there about AI and it's there to the level that, you know, we want it to proceed towards. Like it needs to continue, right? So back when I used to talk about AI like several years ago, people were just like, oh, that's like that thing out there, you know, that no one can ever touch. And now it's tangible. Like people are actually using it so often and with excitement. And that really, you can feel the excitement, right? Like you walk around here, for instance, today. Half the 90% of the stuff is
not even
AI,
half.
right? Like everywhere it's about AI.
Exactly.
And that amazing, that feeling of actually that, you know, excitement where people are actually, oh my God, I'm doing something with AI is so amazing. And people are also more attuned to responsible use of AI because they're aware of the dangers of AI. So I think that's also really, really good.
Yeah, in a way, the fact that people are a little bit nervous about it
is good.
It's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
You don't want them to just be blasé and just think this is not a problem. You want them to be like, okay, maybe we should be careful here.
Absolutely.
Again, it's like having a piece of glass on the floor or a knife in your hand. It's like, this is useful, but could be dangerous.
Exactly.
But let's not make it dangerous.
I love that analogy.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Of course.
Because you mentioned this a little bit in passing. You've been doing this for how long now?
15 years now.
15 years, right? I won't even go back 15 years because I know the answer already. But if you go from like 7 years ago to today, when, you know, you're with your friends or you said you have a niece, so your niece's parents' friends, and say like, I do this AI stuff, where they're just like, yeah, whatever. And now they're like, tell me more. Do you know what I mean? Have the conversations changed?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like people who never were interested in about, you know, talking to me about what I used to do for a living.
Right.
Family included.
Right.
Now
Mom and dad, hi.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Hi, Mom. Now we're like, oh my God, you know, that's cool. You know, I heard about this from somebody else. And, you know, all of these things start stringing together now in their minds. And they're like clicking that's AI. And, you know, that's AI. And then they ask me like, you know, how far is this going to go? Like, you know, what are the dangers? What are the pitfalls? And I'm like, I love these questions because I need people to ask me what the challenges are, where the pitfalls are, so that they can be addressed, right?
Absolutely.
Because they have to be addressed.
Absolutely. Look, we could go on forever. I've taken up way too much of your time. I really want to thank you for doing this today.
Thank you so much, Michael.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Here. Of course. So totally.
Don't forget to follow Insurance for the New Possible on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube to stay up to date on all of our amazing and informative content.